In this series, I'm going to show you every single step that I take to completely refresh my Tesla Model 3 with its 100,000 mile anniversary. The very first step is to jack up your car. You can put it on jack stands or in a lift, take off the center caps and take off the wheel. There's an under tray, it's a bunch of 10mm bolts and a couple 13mm nuts. You ever wondered if your Tesla needs an oil change? This little beep. After that, pop the frunk, pull everything out. Take these 10mm bolts out, they're really easy to access. Pull everything up with your hands. It's also just some plastic clips. And then there's a last 10mm bolt here on the right hand side, right next to the brake reservoir. After that, pull up with your hands on this access panel. It's the light and the button to be able to get out of the frunk. You just unclip this so that you can access the two last 10mm bolts for the front. If you just get your hands underneath it, you can actually just pull this up pretty easily. It's just kind of clipped in and the clips are pretty large, so it's easy to line up once you put it back in. So you just pull it up on either side and then you can lift up. There's a little hanging filter frame for the cabin air filter and you can pull that up too. At this point, you're probably asking yourself, do I have to do this at all? Do I have to pull the frunk tub or whatever this is called? Yes, you do if you want to access the inner and outer tie rods. If yours are fine, you don't have to worry about that, but this elephant clamp here, this metal clamp that holds the inner part of the boot, you have to pull that and pull the boot for the inner tie rod. The second reason is if you want to replace the upper control arms, you have to remove the bolts for the top of the strut carrier to be able to swing the upper control arm bolts out, which I'll show you in a second. Now you can see the strut tower and the whole assembly here is disconnected from the top. So that's how we're gonna get these bolts out of the upper control arms. Quick disclaimer, if you don't know anything about cars, make sure you watch a couple YouTube videos about suspension and suspension loads, unloaded and loaded suspension versus unsprung and unsprung weight, just so you have an idea of how this all works, because it is dangerous. You want to be careful when you're unbolting anything that could have load on it, but make sure you do that due diligence before you work on anything. Next, pull the sway bar end links. You have to counter hold it with a socket so you can pull these bolts out, and then you can see mine are really not in that bad a shape. They're not cracked, but they are worn, so we're going to replace these. This is cheap insurance. And as you can see, if you swing the carrier out, you can get these bolts out. You can take the inner fender liner out, but you do not have to. The rest of these are pretty easy to get out. The top of the spindle and that bolt. I put a screwdriver here, so it's easy to kind of pop out that ball joint for the upper control arm, and then there's a couple clips to just for that wheel speed sensor, so you can just pop those out. It's a pretty large upgrade. You can see this is the old versus the new Tesla ones. The upper control arms, this is for the Model Y, the Model X, Model S. They're all injection molded plastic. These are a fully cast aluminum set and they're way high quality. Important is some people don't realize you have to buy new bolts when you're replacing suspension components or really any new components in your car. Some of the stuff is torque to yield, means you can only torque it one time. After that, you have to buy new bolts and retorque it to spec because it's only one time use. And then it's in reverse order. You put the upper control arms back in. You can torque this top of the spindle bolt at this point because it's a static bolt. Everything else you have to do while the car's at ride height. I was doing this by myself, so it's quite difficult, but if you have a jack, it'll help you get that carrier up into place so you can put those bolts in. I'm showing you the torque values of everything in its own foot-pounds so you can properly torque all your bolts. They're not all torque to yield, but I did it to replace anyway because it's good insurance, like I said. In the next part, we're going to move on to the lateral links and the compliance arms. I'm going to show you how to replace those. And follow, share this video with your friends, and I have a lot more coming, so stay tuned and we'll look out for the next part. I'll see you guys soon.